Hi, everybody. I know it's been 2 weeks since we had our group meeting, but we are back. Last week was Valentine's week, and so a lot of people had plans, so we just decided to postpone group meeting 1 week. So, yeah, let's get into it. I'm gonna undeafen myself, and we'll get to discussion.
Few years for that.
Hello.
Possibly.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello.
All right. How is everybody? We've missed each other for 2 weeks. The discussion
Feels like a long time ago I read these chapters.
I audiobooked them today at work. So
There you go.
and then I skimmed them after the gym. And Thea called me and I was like, internally, I'm like, I want to talk to you so badly, but at the same time I need to read. But no, it was good. I overall, I would say that these chapters, I felt like there were lots of things that were appropriately done into the movies. And then there were other things where I was like, oh, they did not translate that into the movies. So, but overall, I thought it went pretty well. Pretty good. Pretty well. On that front. But I do not remember, just overarching question, I do not remember Smaug leaving the mountain so many times during this like chunk of time, right? Like, doesn't he stay in the movies? Doesn't he stay in the mountain like the entire time until he actually goes to Lake Town? And then he comes back?
Yeah.
And that's,
Yeah. No, well, he doesn't come back.
Oh, that's right.
but
That's
the-
right.
No spoilers.
Spoilers! You haven't seen the movies.
I didn't say nothing.
Or read the 60-some odd year book.
Yeah, if you haven't read this book in the 60-some years that it's existed, longer than that, but, you know, like me,
I was just about to say, Astrid.
hey, this is why we are doing this book club, okay? Accountability to reading. Anyways. But yeah, that's right. But
Yeah.
it's like, I don't remember him ever leaving other than when he goes to Lake Town. And yet I feel like in these 3 chapters alone, at least, unless I'm reading it incorrectly, I feel like he leaves like 2 or 3 times. Right?
Yeah, because he's trying to find them, like,
Right.
where they're coming in from.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they talk about, like, you know, he has the ponies as a snack, and like because he burned them as he like grazed the side, and then he also like he I don't know, I was like, I don't remember him leaving this many times.
No, instead in the movie they do the whole dwarf fight, sink 'em in gold kind of thing.
Oh, okay. Because I was kind of waiting for that shoe to drop, you know, like I was waiting for that whole scene to happen in the book. So that was completely made up for the movie.
Yes.
Yeah, that was another one of those issues of the movie adding an action sequence because they had to justify there being another break in the movie, and it didn't exist. And it's like,
Yeah.
I get it, but
Yeah.
come on, you didn't need 3 movies, guys. It's a relatively short book.
Yeah, she isn't that big. Okay. Okay. Now I'm good on the, like, you know, like that whole thing. I did like I listened to the audiobook of chapter on Spotify Premium. Actually, they have the Andy Serkis recording of The Hobbit. And so that's what I listened to at work, which was really cool. I was very impressed, honestly, because I obviously had never listened to the audiobook version either. And I was very impressed by his ability to switch between the different voices and make them just ever so slightly different for like all the different dwarves and stuff. And like his Smog was no Benedict Cumberbatch, but at the same time, like, it was still pretty good. And I liked how for Bilbo, I picked up on some of his like Gollum Smeagol like nuancy voice things, like where it was like, oh, that kind of sounds like Gollum, like his Gollum Smeagol like voice. And not exactly, but it was anyways. So but that's what I listened to. And chapter 11 I think I listened to twice on audiobook because it was only like 20 minutes, whereas chapter 12 on the audiobook was 50 minutes. Ugh. Anyways, I digress.
That's the Smog chapter though.
Chapter 12?
Right?
Chapter 12's the beefy one.
Yeah, that's the Smog chapter.
Yes.
Where he talks to him.
Yeah. It was beefy. But I was like shocked that like chapter 11 was 20 minutes on the audiobook, and then chapter 12 was like 50, and then I think chapter 13 was also like sub 20. I have a sneeze. Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. So let's see. So to recap, at the end of 10, let's see. They're in Lake Town, and they go. Yeah, 3 large boats left Lake Town laden with rowers, dwarves, Mr. Baggins, and many provisions. Horses and ponies have been sent round by circuitous paths to meet them. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so they get off the river. You know, they're in the shadow of the mountain. And I loved how like the description in the beginning of this chapter, how like they're saying like, oh, we didn't have to worry about our provisions because the land was bare. And it's like, oh wow, like, okay, like there's no danger. And then later on, I think in this chapter they talk about how like between when they got dropped off and when they like get closer to the mountain, they were like, we didn't come across any danger at all, like we just got here. And you know, and then the Lake Town dudes were just like, we're, you know, like they kind of basically say like, we're not gonna hold our breath that Thorin Oakenshield is gonna, and you guys are gonna be able to defeat the dragon and like, you know, conquer that whole situation. And I don't know, it's just a very interesting little like chunk of like, they're like, okay, we dropped you off, have fun, like we don't believe in you at all. And and then like just the absence of danger when it's like, oh yeah, there's a dragon involved in this, but like everything until we get to the dragon is completely safe.
Because the dragon just scared everything off.
Yeah, or killed it all.
Or killed it.
Yeah, with fire. Let's see. And then So Dale's like the man city, right? Like it's like the human city, right? The one that like the Lake Town people go into at the end of the movies before the Battle of the Five Armies chunk. Is that Dale?
Yeah, Dale was the town that was at the base of the mountain, and they did the most trade with the dwarves of Erebor, and after you know the end of the book, they repopulate Dale.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, I wanted to make sure I was like up to speed on kind of like who we were looking at here, and like because they were, you know, there's like there lies all that is left of Dale, you know, etc.
Yeah, like you know the town that gets destroyed at the very first of the first Hobbit movie.
Yeah.
That's Dale.
Ah. Okay. Where was the? Oh, I loved this description, which for me is on page 184, where they go to look at like the front gate, and like like out of it the waters of the running river sprang, and out of it too there came a steam and a dark smoke. Nothing moved in the waste save the vapor and the water, and every now and again a black and ominous crow. The only sound was the sound of the stony water, and every now and again the harsh croak of a bird. And like you skip a little bit and it's like the dragon is still alive and in the halls under the mountain then, or I imagine so from the smoke, said the Hobbit. And yes, Balin says like that does not prove it and blah blah blah, but like that visual to me, the fact that I really liked that, because you know it's like, okay, you've got this river, but it's like, why would it be steaming, why would it be smoking unless there's a dragon under it, like boiling the water essentially, like metaphorically, literally, whatever. And the fact that Bilbo, though it's not confirmed, says like the dragon is still, like that shows that the dragon's still alive. It's like, oh, like that's kind of terrifying that, you know, he's a big enough dragon to be boiling water above him, or like steaming, smoking water above him. I don't know. I liked that.
Far too. So like it's a lot of steam.
Yeah. Yeah, very good point. Very good point. But I liked that. Like I thought it was subtle and little, but it was like it was still you know, yeah. Let's see. So then he's pondering the map. Let's see. They're looking, you know, they go on the western side. Let's see. I also like, we kind of, you know, they're looking for the keyhole, like they were trying to get in, which, you know, they showed in the movie as well. They're like trying to literally beat down the wall, like, where is it, you know, and everything. And let's see.
This is like the chapter that Bilbo really actually kind of starts to take command in like a weird way.
Yes, I agree. And I liked that line later too, where he says like, I am now the leader of the party.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's go, Bilbo. Like, let's go. But it's true. It's like, he's the only one that can get in there. So you're saying, Jay, sorry.
I was going to mention it at some point. Like, you know, we had talked about his evolution, and he kind of surpassed just having the respect to becoming the de facto leader of the group.
Yeah. Especially because I don't know if it's in this chapter, but he like overhears them like doubting him. Is that in the next chapter? Or is that in this chapter? I don't remember. But
I think that's this chapter.
Yeah, but he like overhears them doubting him, and then he's like, well, like, I'm gonna go do this thing, you know. And then he comes, you know, he brings the cup, and you know, he does, you know, all the stuff and everything. Yeah, but that very true is like that he definitely comes into his own, and he even says to himself, he's like, I'm a very different Hobbit than the one that left, you know, Bag End and Underhill and stuff. And it's like, yes, you are. Let's see.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's definitely when his tookish side comes more out.
Yeah. For sure.
He
And in-
ceases to be a respectable bag ends and becomes more of a bull roar took type,
yes.
like his ancestors.
Yes. Just like the.
And I think he's like the one that not only finds the door, but is the only one that like. Okay, I feel like I read in the book that he finds the door, and then it takes them like days, weeks to figure out how to open it. And he's the only one that like sits there and watches it. And I think that's when the other ones start to doubt him. Because it's not as like climatic, I think, as it is in the movie and stuff. It's like they find it and they don't know really what to do with it for a while.
Yeah, I think I'm reading the part right now that you're talking about, Civ.
Yeah, they sit there like try to mine it, which not a great idea with a very large lizard below.
Yeah, literally right here. They had brought picks and tools of many sorts from Lake Town, and at first they tried to use these. Yeah.
Oh, I think it's in this chapter. One thing I liked was the fact that like the thrushes are kind of magical, because I think that that's what helps them like get in is the birds.
Yep.
And that like maybe they're as old as like I don't know, like they're not like they live extra long.
Isn't it also huge? Like, did I read that where it's actually like really big, or was that not? Maybe I'm thinking of something else.
I don't remember it being like super large.
Maybe I'm
No,
thinking
I believe it might be more the size differential because hobbits aren't particularly large, so the bird seems a lot bigger.
Oh, that's a good point. I didn't think of that.
They're not like Bjorn's bees, where those were particularly large.
Right.
Not just because, like, he's a hobbit and he's only about 3 foot.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. I was thinking of it as like relative to like a normal size human being. So that's a good point. Oh yeah, so like there on the gravestone in the grass was an enormous thrush. But that's a very good point. If you're only 3 feet tall, a bird is gonna seem large.
Yeah. I guess I just imagine like kind of like a mockingbird, because those are kind of big. That's the kind of bird I imagined in my head.
I also liked the use of the parenthesed text in these chapters, and I think I liked it even more because of how Andy Serkis read it in the audiobook. He kind of used it, he like came out of character, like he came out of whoever he was reading as, and was like the one I'm looking at right now, where like Bilbo is hailing the dwarves. Those that were nearest came tumbling over the rocks, and as fast as they could along the ledge to him, wondered what on earth was the matter. The others shouted to be hauled up the ropes. Except Bomber, of course, he was asleep. Like, he came completely out of character and was clearly, like, Tolkien talking to you almost, and was like, but Bomber's not coming, he's asleep. You know, like, it's just these little, like, interjections of, like, and we've seen this throughout the book, so it's not like it's a new thing that the parentheses are used for that, but I don't know, I just found that interesting that it was very well done in this chapter, or these chapters, the use of those parentheses text.
Like an aside to your kid at bedtime story, like story time.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's like, woo, we opened the door. Woo! you know. I found it funny that when he's shouting about the key, when Bilbo's shouting about the key, he's like, the key that went with the map. I'm like, what other key did you bring with you? Like, I thought there was only one key. Like, oh, I need to use my house key for this. It's like, technically, Thorin, this is your house key, so use it.
I'm more upset that Thorin doesn't figure that out quicker.
Like the door or the key or what?
Yeah, like the keyhole that appears magically, like that would be the key that he would need to use. I don't know. I was like, come on, man, figure it out.
I also felt like Thorin in these chapters, like, I don't know. Again, maybe it was the audiobook version, and maybe going through and reading them. I don't know. I was kind of like not impressed with Thorin in these chapters so much. I don't know. It was kind of, I don't know. I just felt like he was kind of like meh. I don't know.
He definitely takes a back seat. But I also, Bilbo's like having his main character moment through the next couple of chapters.
Fair point.
Yeah, Thorin uses a lot of his semi-antagonistic role here because he's become less of a driving force because they've made it to the mountain, and that was his goal.
True.
So he'll lose a bit of that, and then
until the shiny rock.
Yeah. It's time for Bilbo to shine. Like, Bilbo shines a few times throughout the whole book, but not as much as here and the riddles in the dark. Like, those are his biggest moments. Well, the rescuing everyone from the wood elves.
Well, true. Okay. Yeah, it's like up to this point, and that's a good way to put it, Tim, is that, like, like you said, Thorin's mission, get to the mountain. Okay, we've gotten to the mountain, now what? And, we saw a different side to Thorin in the first chapters compared to what we see in the movie, which I think was really cool. We all agree that was very interesting, and very different. But yeah, and... yeah, and Bilbo gets a little snarky in some of these like parts to the dwarves, which I kind of like from like a character development perspective. And like you said, main character energy coming into his own, very much like, well, this is what you brought me here for. Like, step aside, dwarves, let the master work. And I was like, oh, you are so snarky, and it's so fun. Let's see.
And I feel like like in the book, I think it's a lot more obvious like how scared the dwarves are of going into the mountain. Like, everybody's really hoping Smaug is dead, because nobody's seen him in a long time. But like now they get there, the door opens, and like, what, Balin doesn't even want to go like more than like 50 feet into the mountain. And then I think it's in like the next chapter or the third chapter that we read, where like Bilbo finally convinces them to go inside, and it saved their lives, but he has to like beg them. Because they're so scared to go into the mountain.
Yeah. And yeah, because I'm thinking about that scene in the the early 2000s movies, and like they go in because they're like, well, we haven't been here in forever. Like, well, they weren't like sprinting in, but they were kind of like, let's go, at least. So, yeah. And then, excuse me.
Like, it never really crosses their mind to fight Smaug like they do in the movie, because it's, a movie.
Yeah.
Like, that is,
No, that's
maybe an oversight on their part as to what to do if Smaug is alive, but
Well, that kind of also plays into later in chapter 12 when Bilbo, well, I mean, we'll get there, but like just touching on that now is that, like Bilbo has that conversation with Smaug of like, well, I hadn't, or like, or he thought about it while he's having the conversation with the dragon, he's thinking like, oh yeah, we didn't really think like how we were going to get this treasure out of here, did we? Like we just, our main goal was get here, or we're here. How do we go from here? So,
Or how they were going to split it.
also true. Yeah, like when we get to the whole Arkenstone thing, Bilbo was like, I'm gonna take this as my 14th share. Like, don't mind me. This was probably not on the table. This is probably not included in the deal, but this is what I'm gonna take.
They do mention the Arkenstone in this chapter, right? Chapter 12?
I think it's in chapter 12 because he finds it. Or is it in 13?
It's in one of them. I can't remember.
He gets it, though. Because I distinctly remember it saying, like, you know, he's like, I'm gonna, like, he's like, I guess I'll take this as my share of the 14th share and everything. And I think he even says something to the effect of, like, I don't know if this was on the table or to be considered for a part of the treasure to distribute, but like this is what I'm taking.
Yeah, I think he finds it in the third chapter we read, when they're kind of exploring after Smaug has left.
And did he leave that time? Is that the time that he leaves? Because like in the third chapter is when Smaug is like heading to
Lake Town?
Thank you, Lake Town, right? Like he's left.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Is that because he's like he wrote, like, I'm skipping ahead a little bit here, but at the end of chapter 12, he rose in fire and went away south towards the running river.
Yeah. And then he's gone, like, they hide for like 2 days before they even go down into the treasure room. So, like, he's gone. Like,
Yeah.
he's not there.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, and to your point, Tim, from earlier, like flipping it on the Tookish part, or Tookish part, is like the whole thing where he's like, dear me, what a fool I was, and M said the least Tookish part of him. I have absolutely no use for dragon guarded treasures, and the whole lot could stay here forever if only I could wake up and find this beastly tunnel was my own front hall at home. So it's like, well, there's your Baggins side.
Yeah.
It's like skimming.
Y'all aren't getting any background noise from me, are you?
Even if we are, it's not noticeable. You're good.
Just a little
just
bit.
check.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, sorry, because I'm on the road right now. I'm not driving, but I'm. So if there's anything, it's because of.
This is the dedication to the book club. No, you're good.
Okay,
Let's see.
just checking.
I loved the description of Smaug in this. Like, love it. Like, for me, it's on page 193 at the very bottom. There he lay, a vast red golden dragon, fast asleep. Thrumming came from his jaws and nostrils, and wisps of smoke, but his fires were low in slumber. And it was just like this whole thing, like describing his, I don't know, let's see, is it here? Yeah, like Smaug lay with wings folded like an immeasurable bat, you know, and everything. I felt like this description resonated with me more with the 1977 animated version, and less of the more recent one, because I felt like, you know, when Smaug is like looking for him in the animated one, they make his eyes like look like flashlights almost, but then also like,
Yeah.
but also like when later on when Bilbo asks to like see his armored chest in the 77 version, he like literally like flops himself over and is like, well, have a look, you know, kind of thing. Full paint me like one of your French girls style. And you know, that's like how it is in the book. Like he talks about it. And I mean, again, that's skipping ahead a little bit, but like it's, you know, he kind of is just like, well, you want like no weapon can pierce this, you know, kind of thing. And Bilbo's like, well, yeah, I see a whole bear patch. Like that's how, you know, that's not overly protected now, is it? And like I know that Benedict Cumberbatch absolutely slayed in the voice like of the dragon and stuff, but again, I felt like the lines were delivered more akin to the book in the 77 one. But to be fair, I haven't watched the newer Hobbit ones often enough to really be able to be like, oh, I remember this verbatim. Yeah.
And honestly, you don't need to have seen them so much to know them verbatim. It's not a terrible rendition, but you don't get quite as much of the pathos of Smaug. You don't have the what would you say, the hubris of the dragon.
Yeah.
Because of course he's got hubris. He destroyed an entire mountain full of dwarves. He doesn't care. As far as he's concerned, he's the most powerful thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Probably on a level of feeling almost invincible in a way of like, what can stand in my way? Like nothing. You know, hit me with your best shot kind of vibes.
Yeah.
And then
It's got real Shania Twain energy.
hit me with your best shot. Yeah. And let's see. Yeah, and they were all like, woo, you found the cup, woo, you know, and everything. And then it's like, you know, Smaug wakes and everything. And let's see, I don't know if it's here. Dragons may not have much real use for all their wealth, but they know it to an ounce as a rule, especially after long possession, and Smaug was no exception. And like, you know, again, in the parentheses here in the next line, he had passed from an uneasy dream, parentheses, in which a warrior, altogether insignificant in size, but provided with a bitter sword and a great courage, figured most unpleasantly. And it was just, I don't know, it was like, wow, like Bilbo took a cup from this dragon's massive hoard, and Smaug like noticed that it was gone. And you know, then if his dream, like there are obviously parallels to Bilbo, it's like a warrior, altogether insignificant in size, a hobbit, but provided with a bitter sword. And it's like, I feel like the bitter sword is his words and not a physical sword. At least that's how I took it. Like a bitter, like, but it's not like his words aren't bitter, but it's like his sword is, his tongue is sharp. Like, and then obviously great courage. Even though he's invisible, he's still in a room with a dragon.
No, exactly. Still being under threat of something so vast it's a terrifying concept, regardless of size or like physical might.
Oh yeah.
He can still take crushing damage.
Oh man. Let's see. And then this is, I think, the first time, because like everybody's outside now. Like Bilbo's with the dwarves and everything, and then let's see. yeah, like Bilbo here is like trying to save them because he starts, you know, the mountains rumbling and yeah, and then like the waters rose in fierce whistling steam, you know, all this stuff, like, you know, scarlet flames, etc., etc. And Bilbo's like, we got to get in the tunnel quick, like it's not safe here, let's go, you know, and everything. And yeah, we got to save Bomber and Boffer, obviously. Yeah, and it was like they, let's see, he comes flying over. Yeah. Thorin saying like that'll be the end of the ponies.
They go through a lot of pony.
Yes, they
You know.
do.
They go through a lot of
Yeah.
pony, guys.
I'm not sure if Tolkien really liked ponies.
It's like, dear Sir Tolkien, what was your
I don't think he
animosity
did.
towards ponies? What
Okay,
is the-
because like these are not the first ponies to die. I mean, like not only the first ponies to die, these are like they've all been eaten
By
Okay.
a dragon.
and goblins.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's right.
All the ponies that have died have not just died; they've been eaten. So,
Yeah.
Didn't they lose their ponies with the trolls too?
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah.
I think you're right.
But they send Beorn's horses back.
Well, that's
Okay, they
because if they
survived.
don't, Bjorn's gonna have some serious issues with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They know better.
Yeah. Hey, those survived.
Everybody else's ponies, they don't care.
That's true. Hey, but
He's nice to the ponies in Lord of the Rings.
oh, excellent. Good. Good. Astrid has a problem with the pony death count. Tolkien, my fictitious LARP character has grave offense to your
Pony death.
murder.
your pony death count in the Hobbit book that is written for children, and the fact that they have been eaten by goblins and horses, or goblins and dragons. I protest.
He probably would have loved a letter from you about that.
Probably, I would have just been like, Mr. Tolkien, like my LARP character. Can you imagine LARP in like the World War II era, World War II era LARP, like
Hey, it's sort of his fault that we all do this.
I mean, yeah.
You know what? You're not wrong.
Oh, what's that line where it's like, oh, if anybody's seen Pacific Rim, where it's like, it's really your fault. You drove me to this, as you're doing this decision. And it's like, I'm doing this decision of my own free will, but I want you to know you drove me to this. Like, let's see. Yeah, because now it's like, oh, go ahead.
They're
Go ahead.
in a tight spot.
Yeah.
Like, the movie has that whole action sequence where they're running through the mountain, but this was just as tense with them like bouncing in and out of the mountain, waiting for him to just find a way to kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, it's one of those issues of those movies is if they would have stuck to the text, it's still enjoyable and frightening without having to just be an action sequence.
Yeah.
Because it's a realistic tension of, oh, it's a giant monster that's going to try and eat me, rather than, like, anyone would be afraid of that. Like, you don't have to make it to be, oh yeah, well, they're gonna valiantly fight against this creature. It's like, no, we understand why they're scared. It's a dragon. Every myth has a dragon, and we all are reasonably afraid of them.
Yep. And like they're in like this little like tunnely cave entrance thing, so yeah, it's like one little bit of fire goes in there and it's like there's no escape, there's no ducking out of the way, there's no it's like, nope, you guys are in a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
One thing I did have a question on: when does he tell them about the ring? Because it's 203 for me, but I think it's different for Astrid's book. He says, "Now I will make you an offer. I have got my ring, and will creep down this very noon." I don't remember him ever explaining the ring to them.
I thought he explained it after the elf stuff or the spider stuff.
Does he?
I felt like I remember him saying that he had some magic ring then. He doesn't in the movies, but I felt like in the book he does tell them. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I thought it was during the issues of the or after the elves.
Mm.
I could be mistaken. It's been a while.
I might
Been a
have
minute.
remembered it.
I did find that interesting as well. Like, I vaguely remembered him saying something, but the fact that he so black and white wrote it, like said, you know, I have got my ring and blah, 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 blah. I was like, oh, so the ring is like this thing that we know about now. Got it. Okay.
Granted, though, I think at the time of The Hobbit, it wasn't the One Ring yet. Like, I don't think he had figured out that he was going to do that for Lord of the Rings.
No. After the success of The Hobbit, he did write more into it, but initially it wasn't the one ring.
Oh,
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, no, because he did go back over some stuff. That's why later editions have more about it and more about the orcs and whatnot. They flesh out more of the world.
Oh, interesting. I feel
Yeah,
like
because early on it was supposed to be just a children's book, and it became something more because of success.
I feel like though it's kind of passable in The Hobbit though because of who knows about like the ring. It's like you've got Gollum and you've got Bilbo who like possessed the ring, and you know Gollum obviously didn't know what it was, but then Bilbo just like essentially pickpocketed it off of Gollum essentially, and
No, he found it.
well, yes, but he stole it from Gollum's like world. Like, as we discussed a couple weeks ago, Tim, we don't know where Gollum's pockets are in his loincloth. So the art of actually pickpocketing the little creature would be very interesting. But it's like
That's one way of putting it.
but yeah, it's like he took it from Gollum with no real explanation as to what it is, other than that Gollum obviously held it in very high, like, you know, value. So I feel like it's played off well of like this magical ring.
It weirdly works because like nobody who would know about the One Ring, at least to this point in the book, has actually seen Bilbo's ring in the book. Like,
Yeah, no, very true.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I mean is like it's very passable for like just like a magical ring. Ooh, like
right.
But then obviously like again, haven't read the books, but based on the movies, you know, in the Fellowship when Gandalf goes to Minas Tirith and reads all the stuff about it and everything, like he's like, oh, that's the ring, like the ring, like if it glows and has the writing on it and stuff like that, that is it, you know, kind of thing. So let's see.
But even right now, like, I don't think Gandalf really knows about the ring because, like, he has to go and, like, research it after he sees Bilbo's. Like,
Right.
in The Lord of the Rings, like, after the birthday party,
Right.
he goes and then does a bunch of research.
Right, and
So-
that's what I'm saying is like, I mean, my only frame of reference is the movies for that, but like, yeah, exactly, like, you know,
It's a lot of time
Yeah.
that he's gone.
Yeah.
So
But he's also like tracing it as well, like what happened from that big battle that Isildur gets the ring all the way to where it's lost to time on the expedition to Tim. Where are they going to establish the new kingdom when the ring's lost?
I think they're headed towards Arnor
Yeah.
in the
So,
north.
I think he's like also doing detective work, trying to figure out if it's possible at all that it is the ring.
and so I've only read a little bit of the Lord of the Rings, like the Fellowship, but that was the part that stood out to me is Gandalf is gone researching it for a very long time.
13
So-
years, 17
Yeah, it's
years.
a long time.
After the birthday party?
Yeah,
It's gone for more than a decade. It's more
it's
than a
obscenely
decade.
long.
Yeah, the movie really truncates how long it takes after the birthday party. It's much faster, and part of that is because you don't need as long of a break cinematically as you do in a novel.
Sure.
And that's just an issue of medium. There's nothing wrong with that because it still gets a point that matter to the audience.
Yeah. But it's like, even if Gandalf was riding his horse flat out, it's like, you're still going from Hobbiton, which is way up in like the northwest-ish corner of Middle Earth, down to Minas Tirith, which is down by Mordor. Like, the man is going a long time. Like,
it's quite a distance. I'm trying to remember. I remember seeing a map, and it was something like, what was the distance between Hobbiton and Mordor? Was basically like going from the Midwest to Florida.
yeah.
So it's quite a trek. It's not like he's just a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Right. Right.
And we'll probably touch on this in Lord of the Rings too, but he's also, I mean, he spends time looking for Gollum too with Aragorn in that 17 years.
Oh, really? Like,
Yeah.
so we meet air quote, we meet Aragorn before the whole Strider escapade.
We don't, but Gandalf and Aragorn know each other prior to the story.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So without my last question, because this will be obviously in the Fellowship, but so do we know, how do we know that Gandalf was with Aragorn? Like, is it explicitly stated, or like?
They do bring it up explicitly. It's not like we're just grasping at straws.
Well, I also didn't
It's
know
not
if it was.
appendices or anything.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was a supplemental thing or if it was. But again, we'll get there when we get there. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that ring comment was very interesting. I agree. Oh, and then here, literally the next paragraph. Now he had become the real leader of their adventure. He had begun to have ideas and plans of his own. Yeah, and he's preparing to go back in. Yeah.
I do wonder if Thorin's dealing with a little bit of trauma as well too, because he was the only one that was really able to witness the desolation. So I do wonder if maybe that's also a reason he takes a backseat in these chapters.
I do actually believe that is part of it, because that dealt more with the issue that the dwarves had of being terrified because this thing had destroyed their kingdom.
Yeah. Absolutely.
If you had witnessed firsthand the destruction a dragon could wreak against your people, you'd probably be terrified too.
Right.
Yeah.
And Thorin's normally so confident in front of them, and probably to see him be nervous probably is affecting them as well.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Your literal fearless leader is not so fearless.
Yeah.
You know. so like without going into every little like back and forth between Smaug and Bilbo, this whole like the back and forth, which lasts a while, like 2, 4, like 6, you know, like all of this back and forth, like everything between them was like wow, you know, like I don't know, it just, again, the visuals of the fact that it's like Bilbo's not actually there, like, you know, he's invisible, so he could be anywhere in the room. Smaug's looking for him, he's talking to him, so it's almost like Bilbo's kind of like toying with him, but like Smaug's almost like toying with him too. And then, you know, Smaug thinks he's all hot stuff, and that, pun intended, because he's a dragon. But like he thinks he's all hot stuff because he's like, well, look what I did. I destroyed the you know, and everything. And I don't know, it was just like very well written, like, and not surprising coming from Tolkien, of course, but like
particularly with dialogue.
yes,
I find where a lot of the time Tolkien really shines is the dialogue.
yeah,
It's the way they speak, the back and forth, particularly like the banter between Smaug and Bilbo, or it's like, again, it's like the riddles chapter,
Yep.
riddles in the dark. That's where it really comes across, because you have, or even Beorn and the party, where he's just impressed every time they're slowly introducing each dwarf, and he's just like, oh, so there's more of you, okay. That's how he wins people over in his stories.
yeah, but it was just, again, just, that was very well done. I mean, we could go into every line, but I know we don't have time for that. But this shortly at like the next like paragraph break after the whole back and forth between Smaug and Bilbo and everything, it comes to your line, Civ, that you mentioned earlier about the thrushes, and Thorin says it. For me, it's on page 205, and like, because Bilbo's like, drat that bird, you know, he's listening and whatever, he's like, and then Thorin comes back with, the thrushes are good and friendly, this is a very old bird indeed, and is maybe the last left of the ancient breed that used to live about here, tamed to the hands of my father and grandfather. They were a long-lived and magical race, and this might even be one of those that were alive then, a couple of hundreds of years or more ago. And it's like, oh, you know, wow. You know, we obviously don't think of birds living that long nowadays. So.
Yeah, I thought that was cool that they're like magical birds.
Yeah.
You know, not some giant eagle, just a thrush. They're magical. They live like 300 years. Yeah.
Yeah, I did not pick up on that when I listened to it. So that's very cool.
Well, I think that's also a thing. Tolkien seems to really like birds, but hate ponies, so.
That's fun. Oh my goodness, yes.
Not to be disrespectful to the man.
Hey, I mean, we can make observations. Every writer can write their books how they want. Let's see. Yeah, the talking to, like, I'm definitely gonna have to like go read, like actually read this myself. But all of this, the parts where like Thorin and Balin are like, what's the right word? Recanting, rehashing. I don't know. Just like their memories and everything. You know, all the things that they wonder, are they still down there? You know, or, you know, there's like weapons that they're talking about, golden cup, shields, and then of course, the Arkenstone is mentioned. So the Arkenstone, so they found it in the mountain, right? They were like mining, doing their dwarf thing, and they just find it in the mountain, right? Like that's the whole backstory to it.
I mean,
Yes.
Tim can probably expand more, but it could be a very important object in the Lord of the Rings world.
I don't remember exactly everything behind the Arkenstone. I just remember it being very important to the dwarves of Erebor. It's basically a MacGuffin that pretty much like demonstrates the worth of the Dwarven King. But I'd have to like do some more research on it. It's been so long since I've actually paid that much attention to the Arkenstone.
Sure.
And I feel kind of bad because last time I read this book before we started doing this, I was 12, so it's
You're doing
been
great.
20 years.
You're doing great. Let me see. AR. It's like ARK, right? Or is it ARC?
ARK.
Okay.
ARK.
I've heard theories, and I know we haven't gotten there, but that it could be an a Silmaril. What do you think about that, Tim?
I don't believe it's a Cimmeral.
Okay.
Is this in the Silmarillion?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Bible of the Tolkien world.
Bible, but it is a very important piece.
Well, I've heard that it's like reading the Bible because of how it's worded.
In a sense it can, but I wouldn't put it quite on that level.
Okay.
But yeah, kind of, in that it builds so much of the back story.
Okay. We'll get there. We will get there. Let's see. Yeah, it's like they're starting to, here at the end of chapter 12, like they start going in and they're like going in kind of reluctantly. You know, they fled further down the tunnel, but it was mostly because like the mountains started literally rumbling and like stones were falling and all sorts of stuff. And then, yeah. Does the actual line, I am fire, I am death, is that in the books?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it is.
Excellent. I'm very excited for when we get there.
That's
I think it's at the last.
written by him.
What was that?
Go ahead, Sue.
I said I thought it was, but I'm checking. Hold on.
I was saying I think that's too good of a line for it to not be written by Tolkien.
True.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, they took very much in the films. They took a lot of actual dialogue straight from the text, and then they would move other aspects around.
Yeah.
Because the dialogue is what really sells it as told.
Sure. Ooh, wait a minute. We'll get there. I don't think it's in 13. I do like how that line is delivered in the movies though, because because he's like, there's that big pause between I am and death, and then he like looks up and he's just like, death, and then the movie cuts and you're just like, oh, like, eek, run.
That was a good thing.
Like cinematically, that little like couple minutes of cinema of Smaug flying from the Lonely Mountain to Lake Town, it was just like, ooh. Yeah, but it's like, okay, so yeah, and it's like as Smaug's leaving, he's like, Barrel Rider, your feet came from the water side and up the water you came without a doubt. I don't know your smell, but if you are not one of those men of the lake, you had their help. They shall see me and remember who is the real king under the mountain. And it's just like, oh boy. You know, like if I was Bilbo in that moment I would like, and I think in the movie they kind of portray this later on when Bilbo's like, you know, he sees in the movie he like sees Lake Town and it's just engulfed in flame and Smaug's just like destroying it and all sorts of stuff. And it's like he just feels this guilt or whatever, like where he's just like, did we do that by coming here to reclaim? Like, did we cause that? And I feel like if I was in his shoes, just hearing this line, you know, they shall see and remember who is the real king under the mountain, you know, as Smaug's like flying towards, like, it's like I would be terrified. Like I would just be like, well, I did that. Crap. Like,
Yeah, you'd probably feel really guilty about it too.
yeah, I would feel terrible. And yeah. Okay. So chapter 13, this one was also on the quicker side, if I remember correctly. Because it's a lot of like, who do we gain? Yorin, hello.
Hey, what's happening?
We are in chapter 13. Smaug is flying towards Lake Town, and they are now inside the mountain, and Smaug is not in the mountain, but they are in the mountain. We've already discussed chapter 11 and chapter 12, which has been very interesting. Yes, we are in chapter 13.
I just wanted to stop in.
Hi.
We were having a Jarl's chat, so I wanted to early morning, and I just wanted to stop in and say hello.
Hello.
Well, it's always good to hear from you, sir.
Late there, huh?
I mean, it's 10 o'clock. The night is still young.
Yeah. It
It's
is
only
like
7 here.
All right. Well, we'll get through chapter 13 quick. To be fair, chapter 12 was thick. Let's see. Yeah, they're, and like in the beginning of 13, they're like freaking out about the fact they're like, we're trapped, and it's like back to your point of like I think it was Civ who mentioned this, where it's like they did not want to go in the mountain, and now they're just like, great, now we're stuck in it, fantastic, freak out. This is the end, we shall die here. It was just like, oh my goodness, you guys are so dramatic. Let's see.
And they're like that until they see shiny things and then they feel better.
That's true. They were like, oh, this is my comfort gold. I feel so much better. Let's see. I'm trying to like skim and remember some of like the key points in this chapter.
I think Bilbo finds the Arkenstone.
Yep.
And he hides it.
Yep.
That's key. Yeah.
Yep. Because it. Yeah.
It's very dark. Dwarves don't have dark vision.
Which is very interesting considering they spend their entire lives like underground, like in a different way than.
I think that's Tolkien.
Fair.
Yeah.
Like, you can't see anything.
Dark vision didn't really wasn't a thing. I don't even know when that came about as a fantasy construct. Yeah.
Just joking.
Well, I guess the goblins. Do you think the goblins had dark vision? Doesn't it say
Considering
that they did, that they could see.
Did they? I thought they were like stumbling around, like in that whole like chasing the dwarves.
Yeah, that's right. Because like when yeah.
Because in that whole when more ponies died. By the way, Yorin, we have come to the conclusion that Tolkien does not like ponies. There has been a lot of pony death in The Hobbit, and Astrid is very upset.
I think that you just have modern white girl sensibilities that you think horses will always survive.
Oh man. Well, I think we came up as a group. I'm gonna throw everybody under the bus here. That we all agree that Tolkien killed a lot of ponies. So we're all basic white girls
I
then.
said that he had a bunch of horses, ponies die, but it seems like he really likes birds.
Yeah.
There we go.
So Tolkien was more of an audiophile than an equophile.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty sure he was in the cavalry.
He was, yeah.
Well, yeah, so he's probably seen plenty of horse death in his life.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh yeah, well, this happens.
Oh my
You've seen
gosh.
hundreds and hundreds of horses die. That's why.
And you know who needs to know about that? Children.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. This is a children's book after all. Oh man.
Gotta get him ready for that horse death later in life.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I think that's it. That just speaks to our disconnectedness with death in general in modern life, right? Like,
True.
you know, people don't own horses anymore. Only the richest people own horses, and
Yep.
people don't even own like chickens anymore, right? It's like people are afraid of death.
Yep.
You know?
Oh, that's yep.
Sorry to take it to there. Like,
No, you're good.
you know.
No, but that's also a good point if you think about it, like with medical advancements the way they are too, and the fact that we can prolong and preserve life longer with like our, you know, the knowledge that we have in our modern age. It's like, you know, something that would have been a death sentence to somebody 50 years ago is like treatable or, you know, manageable, and gives you extra you know, we can give that person extra time now and stuff like that. Like, so yeah, very much so.
Well, that's a bit poignant for how I just spent my weekend. So
Yeah.
You doing all right?
yeah, no, I'm fine, but yeah, we could discuss that off the stream.
Yeah. We'll discuss after.
All right.
That's another time. All right, this is not the time or place.
We're talking about a children's book with pony death.
And dwarf greed. Let's not forget the reason for the season.
That's
dwarf
true.
greed.
Very true. Very true.
Give me that gold.
Yeah. In my skimming for this is that the whole thing where like Philly and Killy were almost in merry mood and finding still hanging there many golden harps strung with silver, they took them and struck them, and being magical parentheses and also untouched by the dragon who had small interest in music, they were still in tune. And as a musician, I was like, okay, stringed instruments never stay in tune that long, so they definitely are magical stringed instruments, because there is no way. But again, like
I think it's
I
actually
also
just
like the little dig. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I like that. You know, the smog's touch corrupts things that are beautiful in that. All right, carry on. That's all I wanted to say.
What did you say, Kjartan?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I like the little dig that like Smog's evil and also uncultured. Like just kind of put that in there real quick as they move along.
Yeah. Again, back to that, like the parentheses text in these chapters was I felt very like, obviously, it was deliberately placed, but like they were all really good. And again, hearing Andy Serkis's reading of it was just perfect, because he would come out of character in those for those parentheses texts. So it was even better. Like, oh yeah, like who had small interest in music, and it was like, okay, got it. Like, roger that. And let's see. Oh yeah, and then he gets the mithril. Which was like, yay! Little did he know that it would save Frodo later. Yes.
Save Middle Earth.
Also, oh yeah, true. And like they start talking about the bewitchment of the horde, and which as we saw in the movies, obviously like plays a very pivotal role because it turns Thorin from somebody that you're like, okay, this like hero figure is now like, oh, he is still very much corruptible, and still, I mean, in modern terms, he's still human, even though obviously he's a dwarf, but like, he's still human from the standpoint of like, he's not perfect. Like he's still, even this hero kingly character can still be manipulated and changed by simple things like gold and greed and like earthly possessions, which again, earth, because it's not actually earth, but middle earthly possessions.
Well, it is actually earth, I think. Isn't kind of the part of the conceit that it is actually earth, and this was all way before, and it's all forgotten now, and he found these books to translate for us and all that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be an Earth before Earth. Kind of in the same way that, like in the Conan the Barbarian stories, it's in the Hyperborean age, so it's before the Dark Ages. It's before the ancient period. So, but this is basically before the sinking of Atlantis.
I love that Conan mythos. Anyways, I actually have to take off. I'm gonna end with that one. That's my Jarldom goal for this is to sit upon a throne with a heavy brow.
That's fantastic.
All right. I love y'all.
See you, Yorn.
Later.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Big leap forward in the chapter so that we can get closer to the end here, because I know that it's late. We go back to, I know Civ, you had made a comment about this in like in the goblins chapters, was that they're talking about like more walking and more hiking, like 5 hours march, I should think, blah 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 blah, and then Bilbo comes in. Dear me, grumbled the Hobbit, more walking and more climbing without breakfast. I wonder how many breakfasts and other meals we have missed inside that nasty, clockless, timeless hole. As a matter of fact, 2 nights and the day between had gone by, and not altogether without food, since the dragon smashed the magic door. And again, that goes back to like, time has passed. Like, even though it's only 2 nights, it's like time is passing while they are like, in the mountain. It's not just like, like how we've talked about repeatedly of like, the movie makes it seem like it's minutes or hours. It's like, no, it's days or weeks in some of the times that we've talked about things. And
I think it's important to realize that, like, in the movie, Bilbo can, like, see Lake Town from the mountain. And you can't, that's not the case in the book. Like, it takes them several days to go from Lake Town to the mountain. And so, like, they can't see Lake Town.
Yep.
They can't see it at all. So, like, that I think that's important, too. So they don't know what's happened. Smaug has just left.
Yep.
Yeah, they may be able to see the lake, but the town itself is so far away. Because it's a big lake. It's not just. It's kind of like if it was a town at the base of one of our Great Lakes.
Yeah. Because they look at the end of whatever chapter we read, and it says they looked west and there was nothing, east there was nothing, and in the south there was no sign of the dragon, but there was a gathering of very many birds, which I think I remember what those birds are about. But, yeah. So, like, it doesn't mention seeing, like, smoke.
Fire.
Anything.
Yeah.
Well, it's 2.5 days later, so
True.
But so they don't have any idea of what's happened.
So what you're hinting at, Civ, then, because they can't actually see Lake Town, excuse me, is that like in the 2 days that or 2 nights or whatever, in the couple days that they've been in there, like Smog has already destroyed Lake Town, like that whole, and Smog's dead.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
You spoilers here. Seen the movies.
Spoilers.
Know what happened to Smog? Yeah. When Smog fires the side of the mountain, he then is frustrated because he can't find Bilbo and the dwarves. He immediately flies off to attack Lake Town, and then that is one sequence that happens at Lake Town. So it is 2.5 days since Smog flew away and perished.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I'm assuming then the next chapter is we now go to, it looks like we go to, it looks like we go to Lake Town. Yeah, we look like we were in Lake Town perspective, just looking, just skimming this first page.
Yeah, and I was looking, and I felt like I read the line, I am fire, I am death, but now I can't find it. So...
Unless we might hear, I'm wondering if we hear it, read it technically. I'm wondering if we hear it in this Lake Town chapter.
Maybe, because I started, I kind of, I forgot how many chapters we were supposed to read, so I kind of read that one, and so I'm wondering if I read it there, but I can't remember.
Well, because even just on this first page, they say look, said one, the lights again. Last night the watchman saw them start and fade, blah 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 blah, and they were like, perhaps the king under the mountain is forging gold. And it's that could have been Smog firing the side of the mountain. That could have been him getting grumpy inside and getting all huffy puffy inside the mountain. So it's it almost sounds like they're telling us, the hours leading up to Smog leaving, or coming to them rather. So yeah, again, the noob in the chat who hasn't read this, my guess is that it would probably be in this chapter. But anywho, well, this was awesome, guys. And thanks for being flexible about last week and everything, and I think it worked out well. We will discuss in the group chat about what we want to read this week and everything, and what would seem sensible for everything. And whatnot, but we are very close to the end, which is insane. Just because I'm again, I've never read this book, so the fact that we are in the home stretch is crazy to me.
We have 50 more pages.
That's it?
In my book. That's how many, 233 to 289. I'm rounding up. 55 pages.
I am, let's see, yeah, mine is... Wait a minute. Mine is 272 to 221. Yeah, mine's 51 pages, but my book might be smaller or bigger or whatever. Yeah, so we've got probably 2 more weeks of reading if we stick to our normal thing, or because then our meetings get longer if we do longer book chunks. But we'll discuss in the group chat. But as always, guys, thank you. It was awesome. Love all the different perspectives and the discussions and everything. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So thank you guys for all being here, and we'll be back next week unless there's, again, we can discuss, but we'll all be back next week for the next week's reading discussion. So thank you guys.
Yeah. Fun as always.
Excellent. Well, good night, guys. Talk to you later.
All right. Night, y'all.
Night.
All right, chat. So that wraps up. Let me switch to 1 second. Let me go to this. Okay, so that wraps up this week's reading. So like I said, we will decide in our group chat of what book chapters we want to read for this coming week. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching through this whole time. If you're watching on YouTube after I post this, thank you so much for watching. And I hope you click that subscribe button and like this video. I would greatly appreciate it. And yeah, so I am now only going to be recording the group chat or the group meetings only because like I'm not really doing much on my personal reading ones. So I'm just going to, from now on, I'm just going to record and post the group meetings. You can go back and watch all of our previous group meetings. They're all up on my YouTube. And yeah, so I will be back in a week, next Monday, for the next group meeting. And then you guys can check out my other videos throughout the week and my other streams. So thank you guys so much. And yeah, good night.